So just to quickly kind of rattle off some of the products that we offer and then talk specifically about what we offer and what we're focusing on today relevant to VA and our topic. The core filtering, which is inbound email filtering, outbound email filtering, message continuity, web protection, message archiving, and email hosting. So we really want to focus, like I said, on these first three products. So what do you get with core filtering, and what does it do, and how does it address those issues that we talked about? So with the core filtering service, you get 2 or 3 layers of AV, depending on which package you're choosing. So there's not going to be any virus payload that's introduced into the corporate network via inbound mail. And the antivirus vendors are McAfee, Sophos, and Authentium, and then the proprietary worm track filtering through McAfee. McAfee-powered anti-spam, 99.8% effective against spam, phishing, spyware, and malware emails like the ones we just looked at. Customized content and attachment filters. So really this allows you to get granular with the type of content keywords that you want to introduce into the network via email, or what you want to block. And then the file sizes, or the email sizes, and the file types. And then transport layer security, or TLS encryption on inbound mail. So if you have a secure mail requirement, in many cases TLS will fulfill that requirement on the inbound side. We'll talk about outbound shortly. And then 5 days of disaster recovery mail spooling, so that if your customer's network is offline, we're going to queue up messages on their behalf, and we're going to check at 5-minute intervals to find out when they're back online, and then automatically release those messages to them at that time, and all the while provide notifications to you or to your service board so that you're not surprised when you get a phone call from your customer that their server is down. So that's core. That really helps with the inbound piece, really addresses some of the threats that we saw in some of those email spoofs. The other piece is outbound filtering, where on the outbound side, on the outgoing side, there's also 2 or 3 layers of antivirus. And that's really important to ensure that you're not sending out viruses which can get you blacklisted, and getting blacklisted really has an impact on email deliverability, which then has an impact on how that customer, that network's able to communicate, and if business communication's down, that's a problem. So 2 or 3 layers of AV, same AV vendors that I had mentioned before. Data loss protection with custom content filters and custom attachment filters. So really here on the outbound side, what you're doing is, the focus is preventing perhaps PII, so personally identifiable information, or intellectual property, from leaving the organization via email. So content keywords, credit card numbers, social security numbers, specific file names. For instance, if you have a file name on your file share that's clientlist.xls, maybe you don't want that one leaving the organization. Maybe you want to hold on to that, or maybe you want to know if somebody's trying to send that out of the organization. You can do that with this tool. So huge value for your customers. And then the other piece, along with the DLP there, as we talked about, is really encryption on the outbound side with transport layer security on an opportunistic or in an enforced basis. So that's outbound filtering. The final piece is message continuity. And this product is really an augment to what we just discussed as the DR product. It really just gives you the webmail access to your messages so that you can send and receive during your outage, essentially making outages invisible to the outside world. So you can remain productive, you can continue to communicate, whether there's a natural disaster that's happened, maybe you have some infrastructure problems, you have an ISP problem, network problem, whatever the case, you can still send and receive from any live internet connection. So you can really leverage, kind of our national infrastructure on your behalf, on your customer's behalf, by using the web to do that. And then when you come back online, we're going to sync up with you with your Exchange server, with your postfix server, whatever server you've got. We're going to sync back up with you. So, transitioning. I mentioned Powered by McAfee a couple times. I want to talk a little bit about our relationship with McAfee, about global threat intelligence, and why that's a good thing for you and for your customers. So, what is GTI, McAfee's Global Threat Intelligence? Essentially, GTI is millions of sensors around the world. A sensor essentially is a deployed product. Could be desktop AV, it could be a firewall. A lot of products that SpamSoap doesn't even sell, for that matter. Gathering data constantly, telling us about the threat environment, constantly making decisions about what's good or bad, or telling us what's happening out there across all the key threat vectors, so file, web, email network. And basically it's real-time in the cloud collection of threat information, and there are 100 billion queries to this database. So that's 100 billion with a B queries to this database every month. And what we're able to do is then really rely pretty heavily on not only file analysis and file reputation, because that's really a reactive model, right? I have a known bad, I create a definition for the known bad, and now I can react to it. In many cases, that's not enough, that's not fast enough, that's not going to protect a customer environment. What reputation does, IP and host reputation, is it looks at behavioral characteristics of a given host, and in many cases can prevent bad traffic, can prevent an exploit from happening the first time we see a file from a host. And we'll dive into that with a specific example in just a moment. But I'm going to rattle off for you, and hopefully your eyes won't glaze over, just a few more statistics. I mentioned 100 billion with a B queries every month. So that's 2.5 billion malware reputation queries, 20 billion email reputation queries every month, 75 billion web reputation queries every month, 2 billion IP reputation queries every month, 300 million IPS attacks every month, and 100 million network connection reputation queries every month. So this is good because we're gathering data constantly through these deployed products, giving us information, and then 350 worldwide threat team researchers are aggregating that data, refining that data, tweaking algorithms based on and analyzing that data, and the net result is better, faster, more nimble protection for users with a deployed product. So that's talk, and talk is cheap. But when the rubber meets the road, how does it actually work? Perhaps you remember last year the Here You Have virus, or the VB Mania virus. That was it was video-based, and it basically wreaked havoc back in September of 2010. So the predictive quality of McAfee's Global Threat Intelligence allowed us to provide zero-day protection from this zero-day threat, beginning with host reputation analysis way back in April of 2009. So for about 15 months, if my math's right on that, we were gathering data about that host. That data had nothing to do with any files that had originated from that host. So by the time file number 1 came out of that host, we knew it was bad because we had downgraded the reputation of that host accordingly, because we had been gathering that information all along based on those millions of nodes, those millions of sensors. So this is a key advantage for SpamSoap products. And so I want to look just and transition into our next slide here and look at some more key advantages. So with GTI, just to summarize that piece, we have more data points and predictive technology. We have the more intelligent and nimble solution. The bottom line is, when it comes to security providers, bigger is better. You don't want a regional office doing your AV. You don't want a regional office gathering intelligence. You need worldwide intelligence. Fault-tolerant network design. So what this means is everything that we do is proxy-based. So on the inbound email filtering side, we don't have a requirement, unlike some of our competitors out there, to store to disk. We actually process email in RAM. One provider out there has a requirement, if you're using their archiving solution, that they need to write that email to their SAN in order to process mail for delivery, filtering and delivery. And if that SAN breaks down, which it has, then you have a huge backlog of email, and then you have a deliverability problem. We just simply don't have that requirement because that's not how we architected our network. Easy administration. So everything's web-based. You saw some screenshots earlier. And just to add to that piece, in terms of turning up the service, it's really, really easy. All you need to do really is flip the MX records. You don't have to if you don't want to really worry about user creation or password management. It's all auto-discovered. So to turn it on, to try it, to get it going, there's really not a whole lot of expertise. Really the thought here is that you're outsourcing the problem to a group of experts that's going to handle that for you, and we want to make it really easy to implement, really easy to administrate. And then finally, I'll just say on these last two things, great MSP support and a channel-friendly commitment from VA and SpamSoap. Mentioned that we have our roots and still live in that MSP world as MSPs ourselves. We understand what it means to support a customer face-to-face. We understand what that means to do that over the phone. And so we're here when you need us via phone, email, and web. We understand the importance of that when you're delivering service to a local IT client base. The other piece is just our channel-friendly commitment. At VA and SpamSoap, we continually have made decisions that have honored our channel. We won't compete with you. Dan and I were kind of going over these points and just referencing several instances where we've decided to do the right thing, even at our own expense sometimes. So that's who we are. That's what we do. So just to recap all of this, and this has been a big mouthful, I'm pretty thirsty right about now, but email is alive and well, and so are the threats. The SpamSoap solution with McAfee GTI provides a leg up on the competition by providing that visibility. And our network design is fault tolerant, providing maximum deliverability. Easy administration with great MSP support, make it easy to work with VA and SpamSoap. And you have our commitment to always do what's right for our channel. So the next question really is, now what? And I want to pass it on to Dan from VA.